and welcome to a brand new episode of the podcast entitled Couch Potatoes Unite! ! This is a podcast based on a blog of the same name because it's the name of our family, and we are a growing little family. Isn't that nice? My name is Kylie, and I love TV. If you feel the same, keep listening and or checking out the blog at couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, as you're bound to find some common ground or something you like. For at Couch Potatoes Unite, we're all about the wonders and the unique long-form storytelling of the small screen. CPU wishes you a happy spring and hopes you've been following releases of brand new episodes of the podcast on Wednesdays, as well as new blog entries on some Tuesdays, and as always, we have several more new episodes on the way. Because the panelists and I live lives behind our podcast, the episodes are published once per week. Subscribe to the blog or the podcast via iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and via Google Play to stay on top of brand new episodes. Episodes already published discuss a variety of shows around the water cooler, including, but not limited to, Broadchurch, New Girl, Game of Thrones, Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Gotham, Supernatural, The 100, Once Upon a Time, Stranger Things, Doctor Who, the Arrowverse, including Arrow, The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, and Supergirl, and the Marvel's Netflix series, including Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist. Plus, more episodes are in the works, including revisits for How to Get Away with Murder, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, and our American Horror Story series covering Roanoke, a final visit with our Vampire Diaries panel to say goodbye to that long-running and ending series and two-part episode. Plus, we'll be launching a new panel covering Sense8, a new series anniversary retrospective about the Buffyverse covering Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel, and because we're also looking back at shows now past, we'll be looking back at Third Rock from the Sun and Marvel's Agent Carter. What's more, CPU from time to time goes live. We've appeared at Comedy Outlet Mondays at Dog Story Theater and at Grand Rapids Comic-Con in Grand Rapids, Michigan, while streaming live on Facebook. More live appearances are being planned, so make sure you like us at our Facebook page, our Twitter, follow us at CPU Podcast, our Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite, and or our Pinterest at CPU Podcast, or subscribe to the blog, our YouTube channel, our iTunes channel, our Stitcher Radio channel, or find us on Google Play. In the meantime, if you don't hear your show in this podcast format, fellow panelists and I still write reviews, and we're always seeking new panelists, so if you have any interest in joining the discussion, say hello by finding us at any one of those outlets I've mentioned. At the very least, stop by and leave us a thumbs up, comment, or review. We like feedback, but don't vogue and get too feisty with us, because that's just dangerous. Today, our devoted panel of Grimmsters, namely Kristen, Nick, and Jen, have gathered together once again, one final time as this panel, to look back at departing fantasy series Grimm, which aired from 2011 to 2017 on NBC. If you aren't already aware, from time to time, CPU discusses shows of all types, but usually of some fame or notoriety to reminisce about, and to consider whether or not they age gracefully like a healthy Grimm, or don't age quite as well, such as Destroyed Gestor. As such, this is another chapter of our Looking Back podcast episodes, wherein we review a show that is gone either via natural end or cancellation, and with Grimm, both sort of applied. Grimm, just to refresh your memory, is an American occult detective police procedural drama series, a cop drama with a twist, a dark and fantastical project about a world in which characters inspired by Grimm's fairy tales exist, although the stories and characters inspiring the show are also drawn from other sources. Homicide investigator Nick Burkhart, played by David Gentoli of the Portland Police Department, learns he is descended from a line of guardians known as Grimms, charged with keeping balance between humanity and Wesen, or mythological creatures of the world. And again, Wesen is the German word for being or creature. Throughout the series, he must battle against an assortment of dangerous creatures with help from his Wesen friend Monroe, played by Silas Weir Mitchell, and his partner Detective Hank Griffin, played by Russell Hornsby. Many of the episodes are loosely based on stories published by the Brothers Grimm, albeit with considerable artistic license, though other episodes are based on other sources, including fables and legends not published by the Brothers Grimm. Our Grimm panel of CPU vets, who joined together earlier this year to bring CPU up to speed on this supernatural procedural thriller and cult favorite, are back to send us off and say goodbye to the long-running show in a two-part series. This is the second episode of that series, and in this episode, we're looking back at the entire series and considering whether the show was successful as a whole now that we've seen it from beginning to end. As always, because we're doing the whole show, it should be noted that all of our panelists have viewed the entire series and may discuss sensitive plot points. So, for those of you who haven't watched any of Grimm and plan to catch up at some point, listen at your own risk, as there are going to be major spoilers. Welcome back, panel. How are you?
Hi.
This is the last time we'll be joining together as Grimmsters.
Aww.
That's how I feel. So
we're on other panels.
it's true.
Yeah, we'll still see each other.
I mean, we do have 3 of our most frequent panelists in the room right now, so I'm sure we'll all see each other again. But before we take a look back at Grimm, what I'm going to do is ask the panel to remind us who they are along the character spectrum, but I'm going to ask you a little differently because we're looking back at Grimm. What you now have to do is think about how did you feel watching the show at the beginning when you first started watching Grimm.
That's 6 years ago, Kylie. Come on.
Use your memory, Kristen!
Accessing.
Processing. And then you can remind us how you felt at the end. And this could be, you can look at it at the end when you started watching season 6, although we just covered that in our first episode in this little 2-parter, or you can talk about how you feel as of the last final moments of the epilogue and the end. If you recall, the end had all the different languages. Wasn't that cool? Okay, anyway. So how did you feel about Grimm, beginning and end? And here's the character question for you one last time. Did you watch it because you truly love this show and the identity of a Grimm? For you, it's more than loving this show. Grimm is life because you are a Grimm or want to be a Grimm, like Nick Burkhart. Did you watch it because your significant other watches it and because you love the world of Grimm and of Wesen, most likely because you're already part of that world yourself, like Rosalie Calvert? Did you watch it because your partner watches it and you're loyal to your partner, and or because it's thrilling for you to be a part of the secret supernatural hunter circle, to know the specific secret Grimm language, to recognize signs of voguing, and to make a real difference with sources of evil and unrest you could never make sense of before? Like Hank Griffin. Did you watch it because your best friend watches it, and or because you particularly enjoy, in fact you're a geek for, the show's deeply historical, mythological aspects, a fiction proprietary to the show that has been derived from actual history and from the Grimm fairy tales themselves, like Monroe? Did you watch it and you enjoy it, but it had to grow on you? You were skeptical of it at first, often making wisecracks about it, but you eventually came to be invested, though the transition was awkward, not unlike the onset of your lycanthrope condition, like Sergeant Andrew Wu. Did you watch it, but you have complicated feelings about it? Sometimes you loved it, sometimes you hated it, because you learned somehow to be afraid of Grimm, or were recommended to stay away from Grimm. Grimm might be a guilty pleasure for you, but a good influence on you just the same, like Adeline Shade. Did you watch it but are not sure if you like it? You watched it as a matter of professional interest, but you've generally grown to hate the main character for reasons only you can explain, because we certainly don't understand it, like Captain Sean Renard. Or you don't watch it anymore. Well, that's kind of weird. I'm not going to say that. You didn't watch it. Never mind. They all watched it. Are you a Hexen Beast?
Yes.
Or did you stop watching it but then gave it another chance to find a way to bring it back into your life in a way that best worked for you now that you have some human emotion, instead of just being a Hexen Beast? Like Juliet, a.k.a. Eve. Yeah, that one was weird because we're looking back. So the key is answer how you felt at the beginning watching Grimm and how you felt by the time the end credits of the last episode rolled.
I'll start.
Okay.
I was definitely Monroe. Oh, my real name?
Yeah.
Nick.
But not Burkhart.
Correct.
Hi, Nick.
Hi.
Not Burkhart.
That's going to happen.
Yeah, I feel like it has
Just
to.
deal with it.
I really don't mind that this is the last.
Oh, you say that, but you're going to be on like 20 with me.
But the Nick Not Burkhart thing won't come up.
That's true.
You might be surprised.
We have some feisty podcast panelists, and you two are feistiest.
Spencer's spicier.
Well,
That's
Spicier.
yeah, but the three of us together get pretty darn spicy.
It's true.
Sometimes I sit back and watch.
That's true too.
Like me.
That is what Jen does.
What are we doing here?
How did you feel?
I was definitely Monroe at the beginning. I was intrigued because it was based on Grimm fairy tales. At the end, and probably throughout the show, it would be awesome to be a Grimm. Like, as a type of superhero. Everyone wants to be a superhero.
And your name is already Nick.
Mm-hmm.
It's because that's what you're going for, right?
Yeah. So I definitely started out as Monroe, and then slowly peaks and valleys of Nick, and then I ended from The credits rolling. Monroe and Nick.
Welcome, Nick,
Thank you.
for the last time.
Oh.
Oh, I guess I'll go next. You're looking right at me.
Well, one of you's got to do it.
Okay, I am Jen.
Hi, Jen.
Hello. I definitely think I was Nick.
When you started?
Thinking, yeah, when I started. But it might have been a little bit of Monroe, because I did watch it because of the mythological part a little bit. It looked interesting when I seen it advertised, because I watched it right from when I was on TV, when we had TV back then. But it definitely Monroe grew on me. And now I'm thinking there might even be a little Rosalie in there.
At the end.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're all three of them?
Kind of.
Okay.
Definitely the two, maybe a little Rosalie.
With a skosh of Rosalie.
Yeah.
Just a dash.
Just a dash.
A dash from the spice shop.
That fits. Welcome back, Jen.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
Hi, Kristen.
Hi. When it first started, all the way back in the fall of 2011, I was definitely...
Doesn't sound like the past.
It doesn't. It really doesn't. It sounds like it was 2 years ago. But I also think the 90s were 10 years ago, so, that's still me. When it first started, I was definitely a Nick through and through, as I've said before, and I'll say again one last time. I love anything fairy tales. I love them reimagined, reinterpreted. That is my jam. And so I knew Grimm was going to be right up my alley. I also did watch a few cop procedural shows kind of here and there too, and so it was kind of I described it as CSI for the fairy tale world when I was describing it to my friends and family. I think it kind of fit, especially more towards the beginning before they really started deep diving into the mythology. Like Nick, there was some peaks and valleys as the seasons progressed, but definitely at the end of season 6, I am a very strong Rosalie and Monroe combination, because I still, I love that type of genre show, so I'm already going to be a Rosalie no matter what. And then with Monroe, I really liked all the deeper levels that they gave to the Grimm's Brothers stories and the show itself.
Welcome back, Kristen.
Thank you.
As for me, Kylie, you know that, I said it. At the beginning, when I also first tuned into Grimm. Grimm was one of the shows that, if you know me or you follow the blog or you've heard me give this speech before, it's one of the ones I knew was coming out in the fall. And I knew I was going to watch it because it's fantasy. And if it's fantasy, I'm going to watch it. That's pretty much it. I don't normally watch procedurals like CSI or Law & Order, Criminal Minds, or any of those kinds of things. I don't need it in my life. There's enough of those out there. But I thought at least with Grimm there was a fantasy twist to it, and maybe I would like it. It took me a minute to get into Grimm. I didn't actually like it right away, or like it a lot right away. I liked it, but not loved it. There's a lot of jargon involved that you have to kind of get used to, and the characters, I felt like there wasn't necessarily an instant chemistry amongst the ensemble. That's how I felt when I first watched it. But I was interested in it like Monroe because of the things they were talking about. The Brothers Grimm influence, the mythological aspects. I think that would have characterized my interest with a little woo at the first, because it did have to grow on me, but I didn't make wisecracks about it. It's not normally, I make wisecracks, but not typically about TV shows unless I really don't like it. But by the end, and if you've been listening to our Grimm series, you know that basically I came to love Grimm. I am Nick, not Burkhart, not this Nick, but Nick on the character spectrum as far as loving the show, because the mythology is really what drew me in the end. That's what I came to watch. I loved the ensemble. I loved how they kind of tossed the characters around in a salad bowl and would make them turn into something else by the end of the series. I loved the mythology. David Gentoli is very cute. I love him. So I just ended up loving it. Was it a perfect show? No. We covered some of that in our last 2 episodes, but I loved it enough. It was quirky, it was different, it was kind of your Friday Fright Night thing. And if you have any interest in fantasy or horror and you haven't watched Grimm, I think it would be worth your while. So because we're looking back, this is sort of in line with any of our other looking back episodes. We're kind of going back over the whole thing. It's not necessarily a deep dive, just now that you've watched 6 seasons of Grimm, where are you with it as far as the show is concerned? So aside from things we may have already mentioned, although you can rehash some of that, talk about the show in general, just overarchingly. What did you love? What did you hate about the show, totally generally?
My interest in the show. I started out kind of liking it. I liked it a little more as I kept watching, and I basically stopped the season 2 cliffhanger. I think Nick's a zombie in a coffin, or maybe he's just in a coffin dead. I don't know. I forget. And I did not come back to it, and I was all right with that until seasons 3, 4, and I think even 5 were on whatever streaming.
Amazon.
Yeah, that one. And that's when I started watching it again, and I liked season 3, and I really just kept liking it more and more as the seasons went on. Whether one season was better than the other, I don't know, but my enjoyment of it increased as time went on with watching it. The odd thing for me is that I wanted more, it diving more into the mythology, more into the Grimm brothers than it did. And even though the less they did with that, the more I seemed to like the show. But it took me taking a break from the show to realizing, okay, it's not meeting my expectations, but I did like it for different reasons. And I've mentioned this probably in both podcasts. The similarities to the X-Files, the style and everything is probably really why I do like it. It's not aliens, but it's Vesson.
I'll say, unlike Nick, Nick, not Burkhart. It's okay now. You have to roll with it. So unlike Nick, not Burkhart, I watched it pretty much in real time since it first premiered. I stuck with it through the time slot changes. One year they didn't premiere it until on Halloween, which was kind of cool that it lined up that way. And another season they premiered it at the end of August, way before normal stuff started. So I stuck with it. Yeah, there were some downfalls. I feel like season 4? Season 3? I think season 4 wasn't as strong as some of the others, and that one kind of...
When Juliet became a hex and beast. That's season 4.
Was that season 4?
Okay, so maybe it was season 3.
It might have been.
Season 3 is when it started off Zombie Nick.
Yeah, maybe that was it. 'Cause there was one season in particular that was kind of a slump, and it was still hard for me to kind of push through it. It wasn't as top of my watch list at that point, but I still made a point to watch it within the 7 days that the episode premiered. You know, there were things that I really liked as it went forward, you know, such as I liked it when Juliet finally got a personality after she became a hex and beast. I felt like the actress she's very talented, and yes, and they were kind of wasting her talent on this whiny girlfriend, and I liked it when she finally got a backbone and she had fun stuff to do, you know, so I really liked that. And then there were things I hated, such as Nick and Adeline getting together. That is the one part of the story that I do not like until this day. I feel like it was just a wrong, awkward choice.
I think I'm a lot like with Kristen, what she's saying. I think that it was season 3 kind of fell a little bit for me, and I didn't watch as quickly as I would used to or whatever, but then that picked up when Juliet became a hex and beast. I think that was the best part, probably, of the whole Grimm thing for me, was her, because she finally had this personality and things to do, like Kristen was saying. And I just liked, you know, most of the choices they had with her. One thing that I wish they would have maybe done a little bit more with was when Nick became a zombie, and that was when he had the super hearing, was that right?
Yes.
That kind of just faded away over time, right? I kind of wish that he would have kept that a little bit and would have had that he was an extra super Grimm, you know what I mean? But I'm like that. Like, when it comes to supernatural stuff, the hero or heroine has to have this big super power. Better. I don't know why I feel like that all the time, but I do, and I wish that he would have had that kept, which he kind of did a bit. But I wish I would have kind of delved into that a little bit more, maybe. I don't know. But overall,
I liked the first 2 seasons. The first season, it took me a little bit to get into. Once I finally got sort of the hang of the world, when they introduced Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio as his mom, I was totally hooked. Because I was like, oh, Mom came back out of hiding. She was presumed to be dead. And she's played by an awesome actress. That's really awesome. And season 2 was really, really good. I also took a big long break and didn't watch it right away. That's why we ended up doing a 3-season sort of review in our last episode, because season 3 was a slump. It almost felt like they were a little bit lost in figuring out. I'm not referring to Lost, the TV show. I mean Lost. Like they
podcast.
Yeah, someday. I don't know. That'll probably have to be a series with all the things people will say. But as far as Grimm is concerned, I felt like season 3 was a little bit lost. Like they didn't know quite quite exactly what to do with it. They sort of got into the Keys, not really very much in that season. Kelly, the mom, was running away with baby Diana. There was the Royals that they never really developed past a certain point and then kind of just let go. And then there was a bunch of storylines in season 3, and I ended up watching them all, but it was kind of a very disjointed and mixed up season, and it wasn't until season 4 when Juliet became Hex and Beast and other things began to happen and they kind of started to come back toward the mythology a little bit that I really got hooked on the show and was in it for the rest of the 3 seasons. 4, 5, and 6 to me are the best seasons. I think, hands down. I don't even think 1, 2, and 3 come close. But that's what I loved. I didn't hate the Adeline Nick thing as much as Kristen and possibly Jen do.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of it.
I thought it was an interesting choice just because Adeline and Nick were such mortal enemies when we started the show. The fact that they could come around to something completely opposite was very interesting to me. There wasn't any part of it that I actually hated. I don't think I could say I hated any part of Grimm. I enjoyed all of it. It's just there were times when I enjoyed it more and times when I enjoyed it less, comparatively speaking, for Grimm. Did you guys have favorite seasons?
It's hard when you watch them back to back, like I did for 3, 4, and 5, to pick one out. I do agree with you. I liked Nick's mom being around. I was not happy that they killed her off.
Juliet killed her off.
Juliet killed her off.
I meant the writers.
Oh, okay.
Because it was their choice, ultimately.
Right. That was a heck of a choice to pick Juliet to kill her off, because it seemed like that was a pretty final way of ending things between Nick and Juliet, which it did, not that it ended it romantically between them, but they're definitely worked together after that, and so that was an interesting arc to see over the course of the show, but like I said, it's hard for me to pick out a specific season. I don't remember 3 being as bad, but maybe because I was just getting back into it after taking a break. And like I said, I liked them more as time went on. And whether or not 5 is better than 6.
For me, 3 was forgettable. Like, you touched on the highlights, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, that happened then. Other than that, I don't really remember a whole lot from 3. So to me, that's just not a good sign.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't remember a lot.
But from 4, 5, 6, yeah. Even to seasons 1 and 2, But
well, bringing Rosalie in, it was probably a high point for the show.
Yeah,
she was that
definitely
last needed puzzle piece.
Yeah.
That happened fairly early, though.
Yeah,
that happened pretty early.
Yeah.
And then I really like when... So it wasn't until Wu was in on it.
Once Wu got into the Scooby Gang.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that was a long time coming.
That
was longer than necessary.
Whatever season that happens in probably is when it really
4,
felt like I like a team working on stuff. Like whether it's a Starship crew or the Buffy crew or that's what
You just like your Scooby Gangs.
Or Mulder and Scully.
Yeah.
I guess that's different. It's just the two of them. I like when the Lone Gunman and Skinner help out though.
Yeah, there you go. I was just waiting for you to draw the parallel, don't you see?
I love the X-Files.
What? I'm
back. Okay.
Surprised.
Okay, Grimm. Maybe that's one of my problems with Grimm. Nick has a partner, but if it was more Nick and Monroe or more Nick and Hank and then helpers, I might have liked it, the show even more. Like, I think I agree with you. It's just a fun show. It's not like one of my favorites. Probably not up in my top 10. It's probably nowhere near my top 10.
What? What are you guys talking about?
Sorry, man. It does not reach the top 10.
Oh,
it was enjoyable. Very, very enjoyable.
It's reached the rewatchability. Like, someday will rewatch. I would like to rewatch it. I don't know when that's going to happen.
You need to miss it for a little bit first. Yeah,
for
but
sure.
Definitely is rewatchable.
It might not happen until my kids are old enough to watch it with me.
Oh,
that's
such a good
wild.
I know. There's a lot of good TV right now.
No, there is.
I'm rewatching Golden Girls.
Picture it. Sizzling. So, what about, do you think that the series finale was a proper send-off for our characters? We kind of hit on it in season 6.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
I'll go with a yes.
Kristen and Jen are checking in with each other.
Yes, please state your opinions clearly, ladies.
I just wish the very last minutes were a little bit longer and explained a little bit more with...
You wanted more epilogue.
Yeah, I felt like I wanted more epilogue. I wanted more epilogue.
You want more Grimm.
Yeah, that's
Grimm.
okay.
I I wouldn't mind a spin-off with just the kids.
I don't know. We've been burned by many spin-offs in the past.
Yeah.
There's very few spin-offs that actually succeed.
Joey, the Lone Gunman.
Frasier did okay.
Frasier
did
the exception to the rule.
I'm just saying. There is one. Anybody else want to weigh in on the proper send-off question?
I've stated my opinion in the previous episode, but I think because it's not one of my favorite shows, and I think it was written well, like, it didn't leave me wanting more, but if there was a spin-off, in my head, the spin-off was the past, like Nick's ancestors.
Oh, that could be good, too.
That would be good.
I never thought
Maybe
about
even
that.
going, and then once we saw
Like
them in
the
the
first
mirror spot,
Grimms.
like,
Yeah.
moving on from there.
Oh.
And the forging of the
Write it.
keys and the coins.
Yeah.
That's
And explaining
That
who
would
the
be good.
royals were.
Yes.
meeting the royals and then
Yeah.
starting
Yeah.
There's really a ripe opportunity for an expanded universe that gets into prequelization because there was so many hints and clues that they dropped throughout the 6 seasons that they never really let come to fruition.
I think that's the only reason I like this show but don't love it is because there were so many things dropped, and either I have to care about it, like I love the Star Trek universe, X-Files universe, and get those answers resolved, and be upset that they're not, or just put it aside and it's just a fun show that I watch. I think I just figured that out right now.
But it's the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need a little bit more for my serialized TV, which ultimately this kind of was. I mean, it did follow the X-Files format in the sense that there were mythology episodes and there were Monsters of the Week. And very much to a T in the way they followed that format. But I think that I feel like the series finale did what it needed to do for the show that we got, but I feel like there was a lot of unrealized potential in the show, which ultimately leaves me feeling where Nick is. That, you know, this is good enough. This is the best of what we're gonna get, and I'm happy with what we got, but it's not good enough to be one of the best or one of my favorites. Everyone's
I agree.
Kristen was thinking.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree. I don't have anything else to add, but I agree with that statement.
Do you think the show would hold up with the passage of time? Why or why not?
Like I said, I didn't go back to rewatch 1 and 2 after the break, but after watching it through, I'm kind of excited to rewatch 1 and 2 to see if it holds up. And knowing where things are going with the Adelaide character and Rosalie and Monroe and Wu, I picture it would hold up, but I don't know. Especially with all those pitfalls. Will they be highlighted now? Like, oh, we don't figure that out. We don't find that out. It could just be more frustrating.
You know, you're right. You have a good point
Yeah,
there. I didn't think about it that way. If I go back and watch everything, like, oh yeah, why they never covered that? What happened with that? Oh, now I'm mad. Now I don't want to rewatch. You Nick.
It's a thing. No, I kind of just got a little light bulb too, because I was thinking, I think it would hold up because it's not really like grounded in the real world too much. But I think the only thing that would really like date the show is obviously the technology. Like the phones have already evolved.
Well, there's
and all that.
such a heavy Apple product placement in the
Oh, there
show.
is. Very much so. So that might just automatically date it, but I don't think it would affect it from being rewatchable. But then with Nick's little epiphany and Jen agreeing, I might also feel the same way. Like, oh, why didn't they go back and address this like they said they were going to? And, you know, now that you know where they're going, it's harder to go back and see where they've been.
Yeah, I don't know if I would rewatch this one just because I know there are answers I didn't get and I'm not going to get them.
Now I'm wondering how many answers are there.
So it's almost worth rewatching just to see how angry you can get with it.
No,
I
it's
feel like we
not.
need to gauge the beginning of this podcast and the end.
Can we change our answers?
You can do whatever
Wait,
you
this isn't
want.
in one of my top 10.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. It still is.
10's holding fast. So now the next part of this question was it time for it to go, or would you have watched more seasons, or should it have ended sooner?
I don't think it should have ended sooner.
Yeah, I don't think it should.
I already forgot the other things you asked.
Good job, Nick, not Burkhart. Was it time for it to go, or would you have watched more seasons?
I would have watched more seasons, but it definitely, I feel like each season falls into my problem if you listen to the Supernatural podcast. Like, we kind of address what the big bad is. We get little tastes of it throughout the season, but really sometimes Monsters of the Week feel like filler episodes instead of something to just sit and enjoy and wait till we get to the end. So it definitely had moments like that for me. Like I said, I don't mind that it ended. I don't know if it was time to go. I'm sure they probably could have done another season or two, but and many podcasts you'll hear me say I advocate for shorter seasons. Let's the writer sit down, figure out a great story arc for 13 episodes, and then move on. Which they did in the last season, so that's probably why that one, in my mind, feels like my favorite season. It was a time to go, but I don't mind that it went. And
I kind of feel
we know your answer.
Actually, I kind of agree with him. I feel like it ended where it should. I think that I could easily say another season or two, but I think that it would really become redundant after that because it was already doing that, whereas repeating the Monsters of the Week and all that. So I'm fine with it ending where it ended. I just wanted to have that a little longer, the epilogue.
I feel like what they needed to do was story arcs with a type of Vesson instead of, we did a story with this Vesson and we're done with them.
Yeah.
I feel like they tried too hard to come up with new Vesson almost every single week. I don't know. I think we could have done more. They did bring some back for stories, not just background.
They did bring some. They had some that came back.
I don't know if they did. I don't know why it seemed hard for them. Like there could have been more Bloopbot stories or a Bloopbot arc, which the Vesson Council, I forgot that was even a thing too.
So to answer this question, I think I would have watched more seasons, and then I also think there was room for more, just because to me it didn't quite tie it off as neatly as I would have wanted to. The epilogue was nice and it was necessary, but I don't know how much longer they could have gone. Like it would have been nice. My big complaint about Grimm, in the end, if I were to have one, is that they had a lot of ideas that they kind of threw into episodes, and some of them ended up tying together okay, and some of them didn't. And I really feel like they needed a better serial arc than the one they gave us. The Monsters of the Week themselves didn't bother me, because that was kind of the whole gimmick of the show. He goes out, there's a crime, it's Vesson related. They figure out it's Vesson related. They meet other Vesson. Grimm goes and fights Vesson, and then the others help. That's basically the whole structure of every episode. But because that was the whole structure of every episode, I feel like they should have done more to flesh out the larger story over course of all 6 seasons than they did. I feel like they didn't quite, and so that by the end, by season 6, it was a rush to get it done because they had the shorter season and they had to tie everything up, and they did it messy because they only had so much to work with. I wasn't articulate, but I got to the point. So
I also wanted an explanation, like a hellmouth, of why so many, even the rarest of the rare Vessons, they're all in Portland.
Yeah.
That was weird to me, too.
I still think that Nick is your Hellmouth. I think if there's a Grimm, there's...
But
there's more than one, because Trouble's also...
And she ended up in Portland a lot.
She did.
I don't know. That didn't bother me. I know it bothered you. You talked about that in one of our previous episodes, but I don't know. Maybe there were way more Grimms out in the world, and there were a lot of Vesson everywhere else. We just only saw Portland.
I know, but there's like a dragon, and Monroe was like, I didn't even know these existed. And
there's a lot of trees and some mountains. It's Portland. I would like to visit Portland. As a result of watching this show, I thought, hey, Portland looks like a nice town. I'd like to go visit Portland. Hi to all you Portland folks, if you're listening.
Well, and now they're going to need the tourist dollars because now that Grimm is done filming, they don't have that influx of revenue. So we should go to Portland.
They could set up a museum. This is where Grimm filmed.
Yeah, they could do a Grimm tour.
Yeah, a walking tour. There you go.
Through the forest.
I'm sure Seattle did that for Frasier.
Seattle's got other things going on for it.
Frasier was a little ahead of the fandom times.
Portland has Portlandia.
I mean, yes, but...
I don't think we're going to solve Portland's problems.
No.
This is Portland have problems.
Not that Portland has problems, but...
Stop being mean to Portland.
But I said they would lose some revenue since they're done filming, and that's a lot of people.
Oh, and then he said they have Portlandia.
Yeah, sure.
They have a thriving film and TV industry, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, Grimm. How about Grimm? Did you weigh in on the should have ended sooner?
I did not, but I will now.
Good.
I feel like with shows such as this one, they do have a shelf life. Like, you can't have them go just on and on and on endlessly. I feel like they're stronger when they know their end date. Like, we are going to be done in 6 seasons. This is our overall arc, then here are our mini arcs for each season. And so I felt like when they knew that season 6 was going to be their last and they only had a certain number of episodes, I felt like that's when the story started getting stronger. Like, season 5 was relatively strong. Season 6 I felt was a little stronger with the momentum that they had. It's hard to say whether, I don't think it could have gone for a full season 6, maybe an episode or 2 extra just to explain the Royals or to explain something else.
Have a longer epilogue.
Have a longer epilogue. Yeah, a longer epilogue. Because I would have liked to see the triplets. Like, how did they turn out? Because we were intermixing Vesson species and...
But how had that never happened before? Sorry, I don't know.
But you never know.
How did they end up with triplets? How did anything happen to anyone?
Nobody knows.
But it would have been fun to at least to see, like, okay, are they boys? Are they girls? What are their names? How are they doing? Are they still running the spice shop? There's a lot of Monroe and Rosalie questions that I just assume that everything is as it was. But, what's Juliet up to now? What's she doing? Where's Trouble? Where's Hank? Where's Woo? I have all these questions of where my favorite people are.
But not Sean not Sean.
No, Sean is off doing something. I don't know. Who knows?
See, I liked him when the show first started.
When it first started, I liked him. He lost for me. Yeah, what lost for me was after the Jack the Ripper thing.
Yeah,
after that,
kind of like, okay, they've kind of done everything they could with this character.
I don't like that they made him the quote villain that Nick referred to in the last episode.
He was the villain for the first 3 episodes.
For the first 3 of the series?
No, of the seasons, the last season.
Yeah, I know. I don't like that happened.
Oh.
I didn't agree with it. I didn't know where it came from. The power thing just, I don't know. You thought of the callback to some vision he had for himself where he was like the Fuhrer or something?
Yeah. With the coins.
It's been a while. I don't remember that. And I guess it was, maybe they should have given us a flashback scene to remind us that he did that. They did that a lot in the last 3 episodes. Like, here's a flashback to when Nick and Monroe met, and here's a flashback to this. They could have done that for him, and that might have solved a lot of problems.
That's the only reason, his quest for power with the coins is the only reason it made sense that he wanted to be mayor, and that he was just building up his ego.
Yeah.
Anyway, you were saying, Kristen?
That was kind of it. I think 6 seasons was good, and I'm glad they didn't go any longer, but an episode or 2, or at least a longer epilogue, would have been appreciated.
I am curious. Supernatural is like my current equivalent to this show that I've watched so many seasons of. And I kind of have some of the same issues, but maybe it's just written a little bit more tightly. I don't know.
Grimm is more tight?
No, Supernatural.
Supernatural is.
Because I've watched 12 seasons of that, or however many.
This is its 12th season. It's finishing up its 12th. Or did finish.
And I feel like I couldn't keep watching Grimm for 12 seasons.
Yeah, I don't think I could. As much as I love Grimm, I don't think I could watch it past, like Kristen was saying, maybe 1 or 2 seasons in a season 7. Yeah.
But I feel like my complaints or my mild issues to each show are very similar when I talk about them.
Perhaps. I think what Supernatural has that Grimm doesn't is accessibility. The 2 main characters are guys you would know. They're not using specific jargon that's like, bloop button and Fuchsbau and all this nonsense. I'm just saying accessibility. There's also there's a comfort level with Supernatural, I think, at this point for the Supernatural fandom and for people who watch the show. There are variables that are going to keep recurring. Dean loves the damn car. He listens to classic rock. He eats pie. Sam eats salad and health food. He questions Dean's rashness while making questionable moral choices himself. That's basically the whole thing around which Supernatural revolves, but the writers are savvy enough, even though some of it's recycled, they're savvy enough to keep it feeling fresh. Whereas I think Grimm is formulaic to the point that it didn't feel fresh until they kicked up the mythology part.
I feel like you saying that or describing Sam and Dean, I feel like Nick doesn't have. He's a Grimm. There's nothing
else really
beyond that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at least Monroe, we know, he likes clocks, but I feel like...
Tea, and he plays some stringed instrument that I don't remember.
And he likes Halloween and Christmas decorations.
Mm-hmm.
Cello. I think he played the cello.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like Nick doesn't have any of that. He's a cop, he's a Grimm. And we don't...
He doesn't
no
collect
other
anything.
likes
He's a very
That's weird for the main character.
Yeah,
He's the titular Grimm. So maybe that's part of it, too.
Yeah.
So he's a little two-dimensional.
Which we've talked about with Juliet. It was being an issue.
But she was very one-dimensional.
Yeah, she was.
Then they kicked her up to 3D.
Whereas with Supernatural, they only have the two main characters. They've only ever had the two main characters. Other people have, Cass has come in and out.
Which I think they've developed the relationship to Sam and Dean better, just like with Mulder and Scully. They developed the relationship better. I feel like my favorite moments are when Nick and Monroe have moments, but I don't think they played into that as much. And I think part of it is because they brought Rosalie in, and I don't mind that because I really like the character of Rosalie. The last season, maybe even the season before that, is when you started really seeing them as a group working together. And if it was more of that, like if it didn't take 6 seasons to get there, I think maybe this would have been a more favorite show of mine.
I can cop to that. I think it was better when they were finally together and all in the know. Whereas when the show started, it was just Nick and Monroe who knew about Nick and about their world, and then Rosalie when she finally came in near the end of the first season. I think you're right.
And Bud.
And Bud.
Bud wasn't in season 6
Bud.
hardly at all, was he?
But he was.
Hardly.
He
Season
hid.
5 he was in there.
He was. He hid Nick when he was a fugitive.
But was he in season 6?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
Oh, is that
For
for
like
season 1? Oh,
Yeah,
that
we
was.
see
I
a
was thinking
shop.
that was in
Yeah,
five.
oh, that's right, because they did the refrigerator thing.
Grimm was created by Stephen Carpenter, David Greenwalt, and Jim Koof in their first television creation collaboration, though David Greenwalt co-created Angel with Joss Whedon, and also was an executive producer at times on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. What do you think of their first time out collaboration? Would you watch other shows they create, either as individuals or as a team or both? And also, did you or would you watch Angel as a result of Grimm if you haven't watched it already?
I would watch stuff that they create in the future. I already forgot the names, and I'm not going to go out of my way to look them up. Though.
That's sassy. That's not very nice.
It wasn't that amazing a show that I need to follow through with it. I'm going to watch Angel. I already made that decision and already started. I'm processing how, if I'm more optimistic about Angel or less, not less, if that sways me into being more excited about Angel. Because right now it's still finding its legs at where I am with it. And because Buffy, I enjoyed Buffy, but I don't know, what at the right time in my life where it hooked me like X-Files did or Star Trek did. Like, I don't know if I need to rewatch Buffy, so him working on Angel, or these people, well, that one guy.
Just one guy.
I forgot his name.
David Greenwald.
Yeah, I will watch Angel and just pay attention and see if where the similarities are.
I would watch other stuff that they've run. This does make me want to go back and watch Angel. I didn't watch all of it. What is there, 5 seasons?
Yep.
I think I got through almost to the end of season 3 or close to that. So this does make me want to go back and watch that.
So for those of you who quit Angel, seasons 4 and 5 are the best. You have to keep going.
I feel like I say the same thing to you about Enterprise, except it's 3 and 4.
Maybe someday. By that time, I'm like, why am I going back in time to watch Quantum Leap?
Oh, Quantum Leap's so good.
No, I know. Quantum Leap's fine. Scott Bakula on a Star Trek ship is a hard sell for me. Suspending disbelief, can't do it. Anyway.
For me, any future series that they collaborate in some form on, it depends. It depends on what the series is, what the what the premise is. But knowing that I like Grimm, I would probably be more open to it. I have not watched Angel. I have watched Buffy in syndication when I was still growing up, when it was on like FX or something, when it was all over there. So no, I have not watched Angel. It won't prompt me to watch Angel. I would probably need to go back and rewatch Buffy season 1 and then watch them concurrently when they were airing at the same time.
Well, that would be at Buffy season 4.
Yep. So that's a lot of work when I'm already doing the DCTU. So if I go back and rewatch it, it won't be for some time. But I would say I would be optimistic about what they create in the future.
If David Greenwald's on it, I probably will watch it because I love Buffy and I love Angel, which I watched all of multiple times. I like both of those shows a whole lot. But I watched them before Grimm, so that question doesn't apply to me. It should be the other way around. As far as if these three collaborate again, I probably would watch something else. I think that I'm not sure exactly how they work together to form what they made in Grimm, and I think there are some execution things that maybe they would need to iron out in a future collaboration, and as long as it was a genre show, like Kristen says, it depends. If it's a genre show, I'd probably be there anyway, but I don't know that just because they created Grimm, it's going to inspire me to watch other things they create, with the exception of David Greenwald, because he already created Angel, seasons 4 and 5. Just keep pushing, people. Would you follow any of the individual ensemble actors from Grimm to a new project? Why or why not? For example, David Giuntoli has already landed a TV movie which may serve as a TV pilot on CBS called Mission Control. Would you watch that or anything that any of these actors end up in?
Depends on what it'd be like.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. It's like it's always it depends. I don't know.
The only two I'd just want to see just see in some other role is, I don't know their names, Monroe and Rosalie.
Silas Weir Mitchell and Bree Turner.
Yeah.
How do you remember these names?
Yeah.
I just have a head for that kind of trivia.
I would be curious to watch something that they were in, but it also depends on what it is, if it sparks my interest. The rest of the cast, I enjoyed them, but because they're in something isn't a reason I would watch it. If it was something that piqued my interest, it would be like a bonus to see them pop up. It's fun seeing Sean Renard in Always Sunny as a jerk, but funny character in that. If you watch Always Sunny, look out for him.
Never heard of that.
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh my god.
You've never heard of
I watched that show for a while.
Is it a TV show?
I couldn't get into it. That was weird.
I haven't
Not my
watched
humor.
much of it, but I've at least heard of it.
I've never heard of it.
Danny DeVito's in it, amongst
Charlie
other
Day.
people.
Is this an older TV show?
It's been on
still
for
on.
forever.
Over a decade.
Oh.
Many seasons.
It
How did I?
FX, isn't
is
it?
FX.
Oh, FX. That's why I don't have cable.
might have moved to FXX, I'm not sure.
I have Netflix and Hulu.
It's on Netflix.
It is on
Amazon
Netflix.
Prime. That's it.
It's on Netflix. Would you recommend Grimm to others? Why or why not?
Yes.
Why or why not?
Why? It's a fabulous show. It's great. I would say, if you like fantasy, Grimm Brothers, watch it. It's great.
Yeah, I agree with Jen. I would definitely recommend it, especially if they are fans of fantasy, or even if they're fans of procedurals. I would say you might want to check this out, because it's kind of cool. You know, and I would say just stick with it till the end. There's a little bit of a slump in the middle, but like most shows end up going through, but it finishes pretty strong, despite Adeland. So
I feel like the people I would recommend it to are already aware of its existence. I wouldn't have recommended it to just anyone, so they'd have to be people who like shows like X-Files, Supernatural, stuff like that. And people who like those types of shows are pretty tuned into other types of shows like that. If they haven't watched it, I would nudge them towards it. Sure.
I know some people who said they tried to watch it and could not get into it. I say try again. That's who I would recommend it to. Otherwise, it would have to be people who are, I think, fans of fantasy. And I'm not even sure people who are just fans of procedurals, because people who just like procedurals tend to go for that realistic type television as opposed to Grimm, which is...
Could be realistic.
What?
I'm just kidding.
it might be based on truth. We don't know.
I think we know.
I don't think the voguing makes any sense.
It doesn't
The face
make
changes
sense.
completely and only Grimm can see it or each other. I just try not to think about it. I'd rather them actually turn into it and everyone could see it if they do. I don't get how their face changes and only certain eyes can see it. And I know they try to explain it. Something about Nick's eyes having more rods or more cones or a third thing. It didn't make any sense.
Now the truth comes out. At the 13th hour.
It didn't make sense to you guys?
I mean,
when I explained it, it did.
Yeah,
really?
The show itself is pretty fantastical. So it demands a certain amount of suspension of disbelief.
Right, that's how I've been able to watch it. But if you think about it...
You can't, though. That stops suspending the disbelief. You're putting the disbelief back.
I guess it's where you suspend it. I suspended that the vest doesn't exist. Just like if it was more like a werewolf thing where they controlled what they changed into when they changed into it. Not that the other people can't see it.
It's just one of the rules of the world that we're in.
It's one of their rules of mythology.
And we're consistent about it.
Well, I accepted it.
Yeah.
Now that it's
Did
over,
you,
I'm
though?
thinking about it. It's bubbling underneath. I take it back. I recommend it to no one.
Well, that was quite a twist.
Yeah.
Are you sticking by that?
No, I'd recommend it.
Some of you kind of already talked about rewatching it. Kristen says time has to pass.
Yes.
Nick says
I said it until my kids were old enough.
time has to pass.
I would rewatch it probably sooner if with someone else, and the only person I could think that I see that often that we would watch 6 seasons of a show is my wife, and she has no interest.
I really don't think this is a Sarah show.
No.
I don't either, but she surprises me with the... I mean, she loves the X-Files.
Yeah, but
This
that's
one's not
aliens. That's got more to it. What do you think, Jen? You're the one who says it's like one of your favorites of all time.
It is, but the Nick...
I
Now I don't want to go back and watch it because it's tainted. It might be tainted for me because I might have all these unanswered questions. And I'm going to get mad.
Why don't you have them now?
Because I
I see. So the moral is, if you can forget about questions that don't get answered, this is the show for you.
No, I probably will. I probably will go back and rewatch it. Probably not soon because I'm watching a ton of other TV right now. But
there's so much.
This summer,
TV.
certainly. For me, it's not going to be like years, but probably in the summer when I've got less going on.
I don't know if I will rewatch it. I don't think I need to.
You probably don't, unless they stop making new TV.
Or unless, there was one of those revival things that is so in style right now. And they said, all the Grimm people are coming back. And I would be like, well, let me rewatch these 6 seasons of episodes so I can...
So much is coming back.
I know! Mm-hmm. This is what I have concluded, is that there are some original ideas left in Hollywood, but there are some people that don't have them. Or people need paychecks. That's the other piece.
I mean, I think also fans. I think there's a lot of fans that want
driving
Will
the
and Grace
market.
back. I think there's a lot of fans that want Roseanne back. Like, that's why they're doing
That's the one I don't understand.
Well, they ended
Will and
Roseanne like
Grace.
pretty,
it. And I think they're pretending the last season didn't happen.
or at least the epilogue of the last season didn't happen.
something like that.
It was a very
Because
terrible
Dan died.
season end.
Well,
Yeah, it
it
was.
pretty much didn't. Well, and then wasn't she writing a book?
She's
and
writing
nothing,
a book,
and
and it
nothing
was all
happened the way
different.
that it did
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
Like, other people ended up together, and
It was
all
very
messed up.
weird because it was reflective of who made the show and starred in it. That's why. I don't understand why it's being brought back. But Will and Grace did that whole political 15 minutes piece.
the
because,
vote, honey.
Yeah, and it was funny. You could see that they'd all fallen back into their characters without a glitch. None of them suffered. The chemistry was back, and so that I was like, okay, bring back Will and Grace.
And it's going to be limited. They're not doing a full
Yeah,
season.
they're not doing a full season of that.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited for that one because that show was funny and it ended well.
Yeah, and it
was a
ended where they
little
can
sad.
pick it right back up
Yeah.
in modern day and just keep on moving forward.
Whereas Roseanne was just off the charts. And they're doing like a rewrite like the Superman movies did. We're just going to ignore that these ones happen and start over here.
That is a little weird.
Yeah. So I don't know how I feel about that. But if Grimm were to come back somehow and this cast reunite, then I might be motivated to rewatch these 6 seasons. But for now, I feel like I've watched them. It was a good story. It was a good ride. It had a decent ending. I'm satisfied. Is there anything else that you want to say looking back at Grimm?
Where are the other keys? Who are the
You
royals?
are on the keys.
Well, they only found, 5 of the 7? And
They got the chest open.
They got to the point.
I don't know why you care.
But I also wanted...
I know. Like, it wasn't a big reveal when they found the last couple that they did find. It was
because they rushed it because they had forgotten about them for so long. We had 3 for so long, and then here's 2 more.
Yeah.
Woohoo! But I'd like to know how many Grimms there are in the world currently. Yeah, well, that was only through a certain point. It was their lineage through a certain point. It wasn't all the current Grimms, I don't think.
No.
I mean, it would be interesting for them to delve more into the mythology with maybe a prequel series like we had talked about earlier.
I think they have a ripe opportunity, I think I said that earlier, for an expanded universe. They've already written some paperback novels with the current characters, but I think they could easily make, those fan encyclopedias or something, something even Tolkien-esque in a way that kind of explores this world going backwards.
Yeah. I mean, I've never really dipped into any expanded universes, but it's nice to know they're out there.
Nick, that sounded slightly judgmental.
I didn't mean it that way. But, I like the idea of that, but then a lot of the shows I watch and love have expanded universes that I've never read a Star Trek book, or...
I have. Some of them are good.
I don't doubt it, but there's so many books out there.
There's a lot of books.
In the world.
There's a lot of books. No one could ever read all the books.
That's
ever.
True.
Unless we lived
Why
forever.
would you want to?
Well, not necessarily want to read all the books, but just to even, there's so many books.
Just want enough time to reread Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter.
I've done both.
I mean, so have I.
On my deathbed, though, I will reread the Lord
I
of the
have
Rings.
not read Harry Potter yet.
Ever?
No, that's going to be my next thing I'm going to do.
When would you like the books? I have all of them.
Do you?
Yes, I do. I can bring them to you tomorrow.
I'm shocked you haven't read them a first time.
Bring me the first one.
I will.
I'll see how.
Paperback or hardcover?
Whatever.
British version
Okay.
or American?
They're both American. Just I have a paperback and I have a hardcover.
Is this still the Grimm podcast?
It's sort of up to Harry Potter. Is there anything else you want to say about Grimm looking back at the entire series?
I still love it. It's still one of my favorites. I hold true. I will not let Nick sway me from
I wasn't trying to sway anyone. I was just stating my opinion.
So you're gonna love it forever.
I'm going to love it forever.
I think that's a happy note to leave on. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well then, cool. At this point, I'd like to thank Kristen, Jen, and Nick for being the Couch Potatoes Unite Grimm panel.
The Grimmsters.
The Grimmsters of CPU. And of course, you will hear their voices on other panels, but before you do, I'd like to tell you that CPU is produced by Back Pocket Productions, run by yours truly, the Chief Couch Potato, and hails from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Please, if you like what you hear, take the time to rate us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or Google Play. That means assign some stars, possibly write a review. You can even comment on YouTube, where we also have our podcast posted so that we can spread the word. That's how we do it. If you have suggestions on shows we might consider, contact us at our website, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, via email at couchpotatoesunitepodcast@gmail.com, or via Facebook and Twitter, though, of course, we add new and old shows to chat about around the water cooler all the time. In fact, as always, we have several more new episodes coming down the pike. So search for our older episodes, keep abreast of our newer episodes, we're everywhere. Make sure you subscribe to the blog, our channels, our social media, stay up on everything that we're doing. Until the next time, if you're interested in Grimm, it can be streamed on Amazon Prime through Season 5. We're recording this in May of 2017. The NBC streaming app will have Season 6 as the only legal place where you can access Season 6 until September of this year. And then at that point, I imagine Prime will pick it up. For now, CPU's All Grimm coverage comes to a close, though the series may yet crop up in a discussion once or twice during one of our other features. But until our next episode, keep listening, keep watching, stay tuned. Bye-bye.